Okay, so, okay, there's Holly. So there's Holly right there. That's a good spot. That's a good spot, Holly Bolly. Okay, welcome to HeartTube. My name is John Putnam. This is the Sunday garden question and answer video that I do on most Sundays. I have skipped a couple Sundays, and I'm down here in southern Alabama for a few more days, so I figured I'd shoot this one here. You may hear some breeze in the microphone. It's a very windy day out here in southern Alabama, but it feels great. It's like fall. Fall is in the air. I've got, I haven't put up a lot of videos since I've been down here. I did put up a few more continuing these favorite plant series videos. I put up one with Kip. We were shooting a video here with Southern Living Plant Collection. I put up one with Todd Lasang over at the Mobile Botanical Garden. I've shot one, not the Mobile Botanical Garden, but at Bellingrath Garden, sorry. I shot another video with Seth Allen, the curator, at the Mobile Botanical Garden. I'll get that one up soon. That one should be good as well. And I've shot one with Bobby Green, so you're gonna see those upcoming as soon as I get a chance to edit them. Excited for that series. Thank you guys for throwing out names to help me out with what to call those videos, because I think they're really good videos. They're not getting a tremendous amount of views, and part of that is because, again, I have no idea what to call them. I have put them in a playlist, and I'll link it up here in the corner. Right now the playlist is just called Favorite Plants or something like that, but I'm gonna rename it something. And thank you guys again for making suggestions on that. I'll be home later this week. It's finally time to put pansies in the ground. It's been way too warm up until this point. The ground is finally cool enough up there in Raleigh to put pansies in, so you'll see that toward the end of this upcoming week, and projects there are moving forward again. So okay, so let's get to some questions from the video from a couple weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. Somebody asked me if it's okay to use shredded oak leaves as mulch. Yes, absolutely. And that is the best way to use them as mulch, is to shred them. So you can shred them with a lawnmower on a driveway, or run them through an actual shredder, whatever you want to do. But they make great, it makes great mulch. It's nature's mulch. Okay, somebody has a Japanese maple that has some powdery mildew here late in the season. Been wherever they were, they had gotten a lot of rainfall. I don't worry about foliar issues on deciduous plants right before they're about to lose their leaves. It's kind of irrelevant. The leaves are about to fall off of it anyway. But if I do know that that plant was diseased during the season, you know, if it has leaf spot issues, it's a hydrangea, I don't care what it is. If it had foliar problems, those are plants that I'm going to dispose of the leaves. I'm not going to use those for mulch. So I'm going to, you know, just clean out from under it when the season's over. But again, if you have foliar problems on leaves at this point, heck, those leaves made it, they made it, what, 7 months, 8 months, and now they're about to fall off anyway. Okay, I got several questions about planting things over bulbs. So one person asked if it was okay to plant pansies over bulbs. Yeah, absolutely. You're going to see me do that at the house. I don't know if my bulbs will be there when I get home. I have no idea. But if they are, some of them will just go ahead and go under my pansies. If not, I'll come in between them later. But yeah, you can plant pansies. What I wouldn't put over bulbs are things like shrubs. I mean, that would be kind of silly. Your bulb would have a hard time getting, you know, figuring out a way up through your shrubs every year. But I would definitely encourage you to, if you've got herbaceous perennials, things that die to the ground in the wintertime, those are great to mix in with bulbs, because it gives your bulbs will have an opportunity to come up, do their thing, get some sunlight on their foliage after they bloom. And then your other perennials will come up and kind of cover them up, and where they don't look so bad, you know, in the late spring. Like bulbs can, you know, daffodils and things can linger too long sometimes, and they don't look great, you know, after they've bloomed. So those other things will come up and, you know, kind of cover that up. So yes, but I would do like either annuals like pansies, or perennial things that kind of die back in the wintertime, don't become woody. And now the wind is really kicking up. Okay, somebody asked me about they ordered one of those proudberry or coralberry shrubs, that Symphoria carpus. And it came in a little 4-inch pot. So let's address this part first. Would I plant that plant that came in a 4-inch pot in the fall going into winter. I would that plant because that plant's like hardy in the zone 3. So it's, winter's not going to kill it. And so, yeah, I'm going to plant that. If I ordered something and it came in a little tiny 4-inch pot in the fall and it was marginal, or barely hardy in my area, I might not plant that in the ground. I would probably plant that into a container and kind of baby it through that first winter and plant it in the spring. The other thing with this shrub is this person was in zone 7B, and they're listed from like zone 3 to zone 7B, but the heat's going to be very tough on that plant. That's a plant that's native in Canada and the northern part of the country. So I think that's where your struggle is going to be. It won't be planting it this fall. The winter is not going to hurt it, but next summer could be tough on it. I might put it in a little more shade than they recommend if you're in zone 7B, and that may offer it some protection that first summer. Of course, it'll always also be up to what kind of summer we have, but that's one that's probably barely hardy in zone 7B. Okay, somebody asked about winterizing drip. I got a series of drip irrigation videos in the past, and I talked about blowing it out in the wintertime. And you can use an air compressor for that. You can just go on Google and search something like drip irrigation clean out air compressor. Any of that combination of words, air compressor, drip irrigation clean out, sprinkler clean out with an air compressor, anything like that, and you'll find adapters to put on your air compressor that you can just put in one end of the hose and blow that water out pretty easily. But any search combination like that should work for you. Somebody wanted to know where they could get a Stellar Ruby Magnolia. They've seen it on the channel several times. I've shown it several times now, and plantsbymail.com, which is right up the street from where I'm standing right now. I saw it on their list after I looked at this. I searched it on there, and I know they have it on their list right this minute. For a lot of these Southern Living Plant Collection varieties that you see me showing off, that's probably going to be one of the better resources, because the two nurseries that you see me shooting videos at down here have a lot of the pieces, and plantsbymail.com has access to those pieces. Hopefully with that plant, I think you'll see more and more of it in garden centers. So if you want to buy it from your local garden center, I think this next spring, that plant's only about 2 years old now, so that's about what it takes to really build up numbers in the nursery business. Somebody had planted a Pieris, and it probably doesn't have anything. Pieris is probably the irrelevant part of this question, and it's browning from the bottom. So if you have a shrub that is losing leaves, on the oldest leaves first, any kind of newly planted thing, and I'll actually follow that up a little bit in just a second with just a fall thing in general. If you see plants losing old leaves first, usually that means they were dry at some point. Doesn't mean they're dry today, but it probably means it got dry at some point. So usually that's what I look for. If I'm seeing yellowing in the new growth, well, I got yellow plants behind me. I was about to talk about yellow plants, yellow new growth. This is all yellow new growth. This is a Florida Sunshine Ligustrum, or Florida Sunshine Elysium behind me back here. I was about to talk about yellowing. This is nothing but yellow. But if you see yellowing on new growth that's not supposed to be there, then typically that means it's staying too wet. It's nutrient deficient in some way, and usually that's because of some root damage that's taking place. But if you're seeing the oldest interior leaves decline and fall off, usually that means it got dry. I don't want to tell you to start watering it more, though, because it could have been 2 weeks ago when it was dry, and now it's totally fine. So don't panic water, go check it, and if it needs water, water it. But that tends to be what it is. Plants will sacrifice the old leaves in order to not sacrifice flower buds and that kind of thing. So that's typically what I'll see. Now, with that said, going into fall, we will always see some thinning in conifers. I mean, like if you have green giant arborvitae, you have eastern arborvitae, whatever you have, sometimes you'll start to see some yellowing needles on the inside of those plants in the fall. They do some of that thinning that time of year, so keep that in mind. Fall can also be a little dry just in general, and so some plants you will see, again, interior thinning. It means it's dry, and some plants in the late summer, early fall, just that's when they do their thinning. But typically it's not that big of a deal. Just go check them. If you see a plant thinning from the inside, that's usually an indication that it's staying too dry at some point. Okay. Okay, so somebody had bought a Dawn Redwood. I think it was a particular variety, I don't remember, but that probably doesn't matter. They put it in the ground, it rained a ton, took some damage from staying too wet, and then started to defoliate. It does have buds along the stems for what looks like will be next season's growth. They had dug it up, put it in a pot, and then wanted to know whether they should put it back in the ground. I'd put it back in the ground. It's going to lose its foliage anyway here in October, November. So, you know, it's a deciduous conifer. For those of you who don't know, Dawn Redwoods actually it's a giant conifer that happens to lose its needles in the fall, and it turns kind of a burnt orange color in the fall and then loses them. So. As long as the stems and everything are still pliable, that plant's fine. Just when you put it back in the ground, obviously elevate it a little bit so it doesn't stay wet again. And it should leaf out fine in the spring. Let's see. Okay, this is a pretty good question. Somebody asked me how to determine, when they're determining whether a space is full sun or not, which month would be the most important, because obviously this changes, you know, during the year. Because full sun in January on the south side of your house probably isn't that big of a deal. But you know, June tends to be the month, you know, mid to late June. That's our, you know, when we get our longest day of the year is in June. So, you know, that's going to be the month where probably the most, you know, amount of burn that a plant's going to take is going to be toward the end of June up through mid-July. And so, you know, that's when you're standing out in your yard. If it's in the sun from 10 to 2, between mid-June and mid-July, that any plant that's listed for part shade is probably not going to like that space at all. And plants that you're pushing the southern boundary on. So again, going back to that proudberry, if it's hardy in 3 to 7 and I'm in zone 7 and it's listed for full sun, you know, probably down in zone 7 it's going to need part shade. That's true for a lot of folks in Texas and California, where you tend to have long, sunny, hot days in the summertime. If you're on the southern boundary of where a plant grows, it's probably a part shade plant for you, even if it's listed for full sun. Okay, last one for this week, and I'll get back to full-length versions of these when I get back home this next week for next Sunday. Somebody asked me about moving. They planted 2 forest pansy redbuds. And one of them is doing excellent. It's growing like crazy. The other one's sitting in a slightly lower area and has stayed wet, and that has kind of stunted it. And so they want to know if they can move it, because they heard that redbuds don't take kindly to moving. That's true for wild ones. I've never had a good luck going and digging one up that was a seedling and moving it. Well, I've had some luck, but the seedling ones, the ones that just seed themselves wherever, can be tricky to move. But ones that you planted in the ground from a container have probably are easily moved. I moved a very large forest pansy redbud at the old house. If you guys have been watching me long enough to seen videos at the old house of my big giant forest pansy redbud, at one point it was centered in front of the front door, and I dug it up and slid it over to where it was in those videos, and it was big when I slid it over. It didn't have any problem at all. And during the winter, when it's dormant, would be the best time of year to do it. But yeah, you're much better off, even if you did some damage to it, you're gonna over the long term be better off having it elevated. Or you can just elevate it in the same space it's in if you want to. You can put a shovel under it and, you know, just elevate it right there where it sits. And that would be helpful if nothing else. So that's it for the questions, guys. You can ask questions down below this video, and I will pick from those to answer next Sunday. This wind is driving me crazy. I hope it's not too loud in this microphone. I'm going to find out when I get back to where I'm staying. Holly's down here below me. She's 13 now, and the first 7 years I had her, she had free reign at my nursery. And so this is her home, to be in a nursery where she can just go up and down the aisles, you know, looking for something to chase at some point. So she's definitely happy out here. And don't forget that those videos are in a playlist called Favorite Plants. Again, I linked it in the corner earlier in the video, or you can seek it out on my channel and go back and watch those videos if you would. Thanks for watching.